千里之行，始于足下. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Daodejing by Lao Zi. As always, I would like to extend a warm welcome to one and all. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we all ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. I want to cite examples on how the hard approach can oftentimes end us up with negativity, get bad results, results that perhaps we wish to avoid if we had the insight. So in order to illustrate that, I want to bring in this table here. This is the way that authentic Tao masters would describe the difference between the soft and the hard. And I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to share what the authentic Tao masters would like to share when it comes to Tao teachings. You can see that we've got two rows here. The one on top is 柔弱, the soft. The one at the bottom, 坚强, the hard. And specifically, the soft is above, hard is below. This is to match what it says at the very end of this chapter. At the end of this chapter, Lao Tzu specifically says that the soft has a higher position and the hard has a lowly position. So this matches that. Let's talk about the columns. You see spirituality, relationships, social interactions, and material things. So in this table, we're comparing the soft approach versus the hard approach in life in those categories. If you have read one of my books called The Tao of Success, 5 Ancient Rings of Destiny, you probably recognize the progression in the column from left to right. Spirituality, relationship, social interactions, material things, it's a progression that starts from within the heart, expanding outward into the world. So for more details, I would refer you to the book, but here, just keep in mind that the approach of soft or hard has repercussions in all of these different categories. And this is what we want to compare. So let's start with the soft approach of spirituality. What does that even mean? In spirituality, the soft approach means an openness of the spirit to experience greater awareness. Now you may wonder, awareness of what exactly? Well, we're talking about greater awareness of everything and everyone around you, plus greater awareness of yourself. In being spiritual, the proper focus is to perceive everything more clearly, to be able to look through the illusions of the world. That clearer perception leads you to sharing the expanded awareness of the Tao with the people around you who are curious or receptive. Because it is possible that you can play a role in their awakening. Now, this is quite different from the hard approach to spirituality. And if we don't talk about it, it's going to seem a little bit puzzling and unclear what exactly would be the hard approach to spirituality. From the concept expressed by Lao Tzu and explained by the Tao masters, to be hard when it comes to spirituality means to harbor dogmatic beliefs. The openness to learn spiritual lessons has been replaced by dogma, that is, beliefs in invariant, received doctrines, indoctrination, even when it becomes obvious that the dogmatic beliefs have become outdated. Now, the zeal in holding on to outdated beliefs also translates quite often into fanatical zeal to proselytize. That is, forcing one's beliefs onto other people willy-nilly. That is to say, whether they are receptive or curious or not, they're going to hear about it from the zealot. That is the hard approach to spirituality. As you can see, when I lay them out side by side just like this, there's a dramatic difference between the two. So next, let's also talk about the soft and hard approach when it comes to relationships. And I think you can begin to guess what this might entail. When you have the soft approach in relationships, it means greater care of your loved ones. Because of the greater care that you feel for them, you become more attentive to their needs. Because you are more attentive in this soft approach, it leads you to being more supportive. And this has the effect of strengthening the bond or connection between you and your loved ones. This is another way that we can see that the soft approach is actually genuine strength. Now, this is very different from the hard approach to relationships. What would that look like? In the hard approach, the openness to caring about loved ones is replaced by codependency. To be codependent can lead you down the path of toxic, even abusive relationships. When you are in a situation like that, so toxic, sometimes abusive, it can become very manipulative. That is, the people involved in such negative relationships can try to figure out ways to get other people to do what they want. And that is because the focus is on selfish needs. The needs of oneself outweighs the needs of others at all times. That can mean irreparable destruction or damage to the relationship. So again, the soft approach and the hard approach in relationships, dramatically different. Let's talk about social interactions. How would the two different approaches impact that? To have a soft approach to social interactions, it just means that you are being considerate of other people. It means that you are looking out for others, not yourself. And that consideration leads to you being courteous, that you can let someone else go first. You can open a door for someone who maybe have their hands tied up, maybe holding things. That you can be kind and compassionate even to complete strangers. So social interactions is on a different level than relationships with loved ones, family members, and so on. So these are all tied together. This is the soft approach. Using the soft approach as you interact with other people that you encounter in daily life. So what would the hard approach look like? The hard approach it is diametrically opposite to the soft approach, in that oftentimes it is not considerate. It is quite arrogant. It just means that arrogant behaviors becomes a way to showcase one's own self-perceived, self-claimed strength or superiority or higher position. That arrogance also leads one to become very critical of other people. So we have expressions like, being hard on others. Don't be so hard on other people. Cut them some slack. To cut them slack would be the soft approach. To refuse to do so would be the hard approach. That means being critical. That means being thoughtless. To not put yourself in their position, see what they may be struggling with. That is the hard approach to social interactions. Lastly, I want to address material things. That is certainly a focus that we have seen in the previous chapter. It is also one of the major focus areas in this chapter. So what does it mean when you have a soft approach to material things? It means that you are not holding on to things with a death grip that you become such an incredible miser. Instead, to have a soft approach to material things is to be generous, is to have that spirit of generosity. That doesn't mean giving the shirt off your back. It means that you are open to giving, to be helpful, to assist. The generosity that you feel in your heart and that you exhibit in your everyday activities, it gets reflected by the karmic mechanism, so that greater rewards come back to you. If you practice this Tao correctly, that which is returned to you is magnified many times, bringing you affluence. Affluence is the flow of resources. So oftentimes people will talk about affluence as the flow of money. From the Tao perspective, money is simply one of the many resources that we use in life. So affluence is the flow of resources within your life that brings you into abundance, brings you into contentment, where you don't feel like you constantly need to get more and more and more, that you become so wrapped up in greed that it essentially becomes a bottomless pit. And now I think you have a pretty good idea what it means to have a hard approach to material things. It means to go after material things, to go hard at them. It means to gather and hoard them and not let them go. It means once you have those possessions, to flaunt them, to show them off, to put a spotlight on them. And it also means anxiety. It means fear. What if the things that you have become lost? What if they are damaged, stolen? So the fear is real. And that fear accompanies the hard approach to material things. So once you see this table in its complete state, I think it becomes clear what Lao Zi was trying to say. This is how the different approaches apply to the various aspects of life. Now, in addition to addressing this, authentic Tao masters also talk about one other thing, and this is specific to the material things column that you see here. And it is also specific to the actual verbiage when the text of the original Daodejing talks about how the body can be soft or supple, or can be hard and rigid. An authentic Tao master would say, it's not just the things that you can see like the material things or your body, the state of your body, the state of your health. It isn't just that. No, the Tao Master would say this teaching actually applies to the intangibles, to the things that you cannot see, things that are not immediately apparent, such as thoughts. The soft and the hard approach apply to thoughts as well. Thoughts simply means what you think about. It is related to the other intangibles, such as concepts. Concepts are the things you learn, what you believe, what you understand, the concepts in your mind. Oftentimes, the thoughts that you have revolve around the concepts that you have in your mind. Yet another intangible, different from thoughts and concepts, but related to them, would be emotions. So these will be the three primary things talked about, that hard and soft, flexible or inflexible, these are all ideas that apply equally well to all three of these, and they are related quantities or related things, for the lack of a better word, in our mind. These are the what we have in our mental landscape, so to speak. So the same principle applies, and the soft approach here will be things that we put on top in accordance with the last two lines of this chapter. And the soft approach when it comes to thoughts will therefore be on the top half of the circle that you see. In the soft approach applied to thoughts, you will see openness, being receptive, receptive to different perspectives, other people's opinions, to have thoughts that are flexible, that you're not fixated on a particular idea, that the thoughts are adaptable to changing conditions. You might have had a good idea that was a great way to go in one particular context, but when things have changed, you need to be able to adapt to the changing conditions. So all of these will be the positive thing that is on the upper half. In the lower half, we have the hard approach to thoughts. So a Tao master would teach that you don't just want your limbs to be flexible, you want your thoughts to be flexible and not fall into the hard approach, which would be fixated thoughts, thoughts that cannot change or cannot change easily, to be inconsiderate, to not take other people into account, other ideas into account, to be closed-minded, to have a mind that is locked as opposed to open. A locked, closed mind is not going to be curious to figure out new things. It is like water that has become stale, tea that has gone cold. It is not the best way to go. So the hard approach applied to thoughts is negative as well. And let's take a look at concepts. Softness applied to concepts just means new things to learn, new ideas to absorb, different perspectives that you can learn from. In life, we find that's oftentimes the case. No person is an island. We all need to sample other perspectives from time to time to get a better overall idea of what things are really all about. To be the opposite of that, the hard approach to concepts is to be resistant to change. So we've talked about dogmatic beliefs when it comes to the application of these approaches to spirituality. Here, it is the same except applied generally, because not all the concepts that we have in our minds are spiritual or religious in nature. We have concepts about different areas of life where we have knowledge or learning or expertise. There, the idea is the same. The approach, the hard approach, makes you resistant to changing the concept that you had before. That you become dogmatic, not only in the religious sense, but also in every other sense. That you are fixated on just the one way, what you call the right way of doing things. And that can result in negativity as well. Lastly, let's talk about emotions. To be open about that, to have a soft approach that depicts emotions that are playful, fun, that are relaxed, pleasant, and there's emotional stability. It is not erratic. So this is what you feel if you utilize the soft approach. On the other hand, the soft approach is contrasted by the hard approach, which is a harsh state of feelings, harsh emotions. This is mental agitation. This is anger, even rage. And if it doesn't quite reach the level of rage, it can be stubborn and headstrong in those feelings that you have. And that tends to lead to negativity as well. So the advice from Tao masters that teach this is to say that, well, all of us wish to live the good life. If you wish to live the good life, you want to elevate your thinking, learning, and feelings to the higher plane of the soft and pliant. So all of your emotions, you want to elevate them higher up in the levels that you see here. In other words, let your thoughts, concepts, and emotions take on the soft characteristics of the Tao. That is what will ensure a life that is happy and healthy. Just like softness in your limbs, in your body, is a sign of a happy and healthy body, same with the intangibles, the unseen characteristics of a human being, the mental aspects. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Let us all travel safely so we can meet again. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.